Live from New York, it's the show that's already in mid-season form. It's First Things First. I'm Danny Parkins alongside Coach Mangini and Willie Colon. Willie, it's that time of year. You a bigger fan of the hold in or the hold out?
Oh, I'm a bigger fan of the holdout. Yeah.
Don't show up.
Remember the days of T.O. and doing the sit-ups in the driveway? That was must-see TV. I don't forget about that.
It was great content.
Yeah.
It really
We need
was.
more of that, honestly.
Yeah, I don't like either.
Can you imagine streaming that?
Shocking.
Didn't like either one.
Can you imagine streaming that? You know how big that would be for TV?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of views and a lot of money.
Money.
Bosses, I'm going to be holding out. Well, we will start in Tampa Bay, where the Bucs, speaking of not spending enough, have decided not to give Baker Mayfield an extension before the start of the upcoming season. Instead, their quarterback will play out the final year and then become a free agent. Well, as you can imagine, Baker not thrilled, but also not shy. Watch that whole thing. It was spicy. Will, when you hear Baker there, what's your reaction?
Well, listen, I can understand why Baker feels he deserves a blank check, right? You win multiple divisions, you kind of stabilize the organization, especially when Brady left. But if you're the Bucs right now, I can understand why they're kind of at bay. They're pausing right now with instead of handing out bags of money, because you got to understand, like, Baker at this point, you know, valid, he's won, he's done all the things he's supposed to do. You know, this is a team that's been good in a bad division. So if you're from an organization saying, like, listen, I don't know how real it is. I don't know how real we are. And if you look at the roster, I don't know how good we really are. Now, if you're starting to see things turn around, the Panthers are better, the Falcons are better. Things are starting bubbling up. And right now, you finish the season 8-9, and you couldn't get over the hump despite how fast you started. So I understand why Jason Light, the GM of the Bucs, and the Glazers are saying, we love you, but we got to rebuild this thing, because I don't know if we're a contender right now. And if we hand you this bag of money and we say you're our guy for the next 5 years, that don't mean we're going to be able to be in contention of winning a Super Bowl. So I think they're doing the right thing. And I hate to be in Baker's pockets, but I'm just putting on my owner's hat for a second.
Yeah, I think Baker makes a lot of really valid points. When you are told you're the franchise quarterback, and it's said by ownership, it's said by leadership, then you expect to be compensated as a franchise quarterback. And I'm sure he looks at a lot of guys, and he can put himself in that bucket of guys making $50 million a year and say, hey, I belong at least in this threshold. So I totally get that aspect of it. I think where Tampa Bay is coming from is, from a salary cap perspective, they don't have a lot of room to work. So they're 27th in salary cap space. They had to restructure deals just to get under the cap to get to that point. They've only got $8.5 million in salary cap space right now, and they're very top heavy. So their top five guys, plus the dead money that they have, is about 50% of their total cap. So the top five guys' salary cap value plus dead money is 50% of the cap. There's not a lot of wiggle room to do those things. Now, and I know you shake your head because it's not a zero-sum game in the NFL. You just can throw as much money at anybody as you want.
Well, and you can give them a higher bonus and lower a cap number for this year and put it off into the future in terms of a cash payment.
There are things you can do, but this is not a team that's working with a lot of flexibility. And from a coaching standpoint, Baker Mayfield with a chip on his shoulder is the exact Baker Mayfield you want. And him saying, I'm going to be really good and it's going to cost a lot more money, sign me up. Let's pay him a lot of money next year and him be really, really good this year.
Well, they have the franchise tag for next year, but to your point about some of the dead money, Baker in that whole press conference was thinking that he doesn't think that they'll be able to issue him the franchise tag because of some of the bills that they have coming forward. And he also mentioned that Tristan Wirfs needed to do a hold in, and he's a guy who had been all-pro at left tackle and right tackle. And Mike Evans is no longer there. Like Tampa does Vita Vea right now. I know he's got the back injury, but he's also requested a trade. They haven't paid him yet. Tampa they tend to be a little slower on the draw with paying their own guys, and Baker was disgruntled. I will just say, I loved what he said. I love that he stood up for him. He said, I addressed the team. I'm not going to let it be a distraction. It's going to be all ball. The guys who have been here know what I'm about. The guys who haven't been here, I wanted them to know what it's all about. And he could say all the right things, and I believe that he can have a big year. But Baker's had a chip on his shoulder for a long time. Whether he's planting that flag in college, whether he's doing the Tommy DeVito thing. Like, Baker Mayfield is going to have a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game and then do a show me the money celebration here. Like, he is going to be motivated by this all year. And I still believe that when Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, Tua, all of those guys have gotten paid, and Baker's like, I'm 1 year removed from 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. He feels like he's in that class of player. Like, he is not wrong by that. So, and if they wait a year, they're negotiating off of a $50 million floor, because that's what the franchise tag is going to be.
He's absolutely not wrong, but he also has led the NFL in turnovers over the period that he's been in Tampa Bay. And in addition to that, organizationally, those guys that you named, how many of them have gone on to live up to the new contract that they have? Now, there's been some positives from each of those guys you talked about, but how many of them where they've paid them and then suddenly they've achieved at that level?
Yeah, and then also on top of that, there's durability concerns. Baker was banged up last year, and I think that's part of some of his frustrations. I played through injuries. I did everything you asked me to stabilize the offense. Yeah, we didn't get into the playoffs and we didn't win the division, but I fought through some of the things. Baker's old enough, he's on the other side of 30 now. So if you're going to hand him this money and say you're going to be our guy, we're going to build around you, I don't know if that's a smart business decision. And considering that you right now don't have a number one receiver, right? Like, he couldn't make it work with Mike Evans. So now you have to reconstruct this thing and figure out, to the coach's point, like, man, we're not as good as we think we are. And if we plan to be where we need to be in the future, he's going to need more help if we sign him.
Interesting. So, I mean, I know Falcons fans were not a huge fan of Zach Robinson, how it went there, but I mean, Zach Robinson has a pretty long track record in the NFL, worked under McVay for 5 years. He comes over from Atlanta.
Yeah.
You have Tristan Wirfs. You have Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving's coming off a foot injury. That's another guy dealing with injuries.
Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
Like, I expect Baker to have a pretty big statistical year. Like, I don't know if he's going to have 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns like he had in 2024, but I bet he's somewhere between that and last year. So if he's over 4,000 yards, if he's over 4,000 yards and around 30 touchdowns, I would imagine that that's enough to get Baker Mayfield paid.
What does your numbers mean if you can't win?
But like you said, he's won the division a couple of times in the NFC South. I think if
But
Baker
he won the division when the division is bad. The division is no longer bad. The division's on its way up. Like, the Panthers are a legit team. The Falcons will be better next year. Like, so, yeah, it's easy to look at what he's done and say, man, he was killing it this far. You know, post Brady, he carried the organization. But you look at the Panthers and all these other teams, like, I believe the Saints will be better. So you're talking about 3 teams right now who rosters are getting better year by year with positive quarterback play. Now you got to look at your own house and say, man, I don't know if we can keep up or if we're even on par after the way they performed last season.
And when you have a salary cap that's structured where 5 guys equate to 50% of your cap, it's hard to build depth. It's hard to, as young players come up and they're going to get their second contract, it's hard to re-up those guys. You got to let guys leave. And these financial decisions, the more money you pump into Vita Vea or Baker Mayfield is the less money that you have available to other people. And Baker has the highest cap number on the team, and Vita Vea has the 5th highest cap number on the team. So it's not like they're not making any money or they're dramatically underpaid. But again, that's part of negotiations. It's all a matter of opinion. They feel they are. The organization feels. So
this is a weird, more of like a podcast or sports radio type of question. But like 2 years from now, Baker Mayfield the quarterback of the Bucs? No. So you think they are going in the direction of a reset?
I do, 100%.
Interesting.
I think after this year,
I
think they step back, they evaluate the coaching situation. I think they reevaluate the quarterback situation. I think they look at the roster and say, hey, where are we? Because I honestly believe this team had won 10, maybe 13 games, these guys are signed. They're moving forward. They're going into whatever they have to go. I don't even think this is an issue. The fact that they did finish 8-9, they didn't make the playoffs, and they're looking at Vita Vea, who's 31 years old, dealing with a back, Baker with possibly durability issues, Bucky Irving dealing with some issues. Like, some of their core guys, they're trending on the other side because of their injuries, right? Like, they're falling in line with what the 49ers are dealing with. They have a core, but the core is always banged up. So how good are we if these guys aren't available?
And to Willie's point, if you look at that division, you're saying, okay, during these years where the division wasn't as competitive as some of the other NFL divisions, where it takes everything possible just to get out of your own group of teams you're competing with, how good are we going to be when the division does consistently improve? And to your point, Danny, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFL. You could argue there's not a lot of really good quarterbacks in the NFL either.
Isn't Baker clearly the best quarterback in the NFC South by like a comfortable margin? Like, you can like Tyler Shough and you can be a believer in Bryce Young.
Big believer.
Big believer. Check out some digital content coming your way soon. Bryce Young getting some shout-outs from Willie. But Baker Mayfield is much more accomplished than Bryce Young, Tyler Shook, Michael Penix, and
well, he has the bigger resume. He's been here forever. We've watched Baker's journey, so yeah, we're a fan of his. But when you talk about right now in the division, I will have to say I'm a fan of Bryce Young.
Here's the one argument I'd make strongly for Baker is Cleveland really wishes they hadn't moved on from Baker. That if you want to look at it from an organizational standpoint, you only have to go look at that organization and the problems that they've had since they've had Baker, and now well,
that's part of his chip on the show. He's currently Deshaun Watson's currently making more money than him. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So I can understand why.
But I'm saying if you look at organizational decisions, do you have a guy? Do you not have a guy? Cleveland probably would have been, in the mix every single year with a guy of Baker's quality.
They would have been thrilled
during that time period and the defenses they've had.
Yes.
Where they went a different route trying to hit a home run and ended up striking out.
Yeah. I'll take you up on that bet. We'll pay it off 2 years from now on opening day. Baker Mayfield's still a quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
He'll be a Steeler.
That's what this is like an insider move here. You want to create discontent in Tampa, and then you're going to be like, I'm thrilled that he's a Steeler. I see what.
I didn't say I didn't like him. I just understand what the organization's doing.
That's 4D chess. All right, let's go to Hollywood, where day by day I'm realizing that me and Jim Harbaugh, we just have more and more in common.
Boy.
We both love the Bears, a freshly pressed pair of khakis, and of course Justin Herbert. You know what I mean? That might even be a little much for me. The best there ever was? I don't know. Coach, I know you praise your quarterback. It's a coach's job to defend your quarterback publicly. Harbaugh takes it to an art form. Too much, too little, just right in terms of the praise?
Well, look, I spent 2 years with Jim, and when Jim says things, he's not saying things to be theatrical. He believes the things that he says. And if
he believes Justin Herbert's the best there ever was?
I think if Jim says it, he believes it. And with Jim being a former quarterback, having the success that he's had in college and in pro football, for him to say those things, that's got to be great for a guy like Justin Herbert. Who doesn't want to hear that your employer feels that strongly about you, has that much belief in you? And the other thing that does from a coaching standpoint is when he does have to criticize him, or coaching, but some guys will take that as criticism. When he does have to push him, Justin knows that this isn't a guy that's doing it, for the sake of doing it. He knows that he's trying to make him better. And I believe that helps the relationship significantly.
Yeah, I think the issue with Herbert for me, and I know you're a fan and obviously coaches, it's the gap between his talent and his playoff resume is too large. And that's the bottom line. But I understand why you drool over the man. Optically, he's a superhero. But when you watch the tape last year, I mean, the man played with a fractured hand, and his offensive line was in shambles, and he carried that offense. And obviously, he got beat up in the playoffs by a very hungry Texans team. But it was Texas, right? Was that right? Yeah. So it's I understand that, but I think right now when you move forward, man, this year more than ever he has to have it. Like he has to have the win. He has to have that those signature games and that playoff where you say, man, like he's obviously top 5, did a lot. And I don't think he's been able to do that because of all the other things structurally around him, just hasn't lived up to it. So, yeah, I can understand why you love him, but he still has to win when it counts.
Yeah, I think everything you said is fair, even as a defender of him. Like, obviously, a playoff win would be nice. Much less a couple, much less an MVP, much less a Super Bowl. Like, he's got all of the accomplishments out in front of him. But football is the ultimate team game, and sometimes the guys make fun of me for talking about the eye test. I try to be the person who knows the numbers, but also watches the games. And I just watch that guy, and I'm like, there aren't 5 more talented quarterbacks in the world. It's just pure talent, which is why I would think, back to your point, he has to be a coach's dream, because it's he can do everything. He can make every throw. He's mobile enough. His teammates universally sing his praises as a leader, and he's tough as all hell. So, I would think that they're well, we're getting our all-world's left tackle back, our all-world's right tackle back. We signed a couple of free agent interior offensive linemen. We gave them a blocking tight end.
Drafted 4 offensive linemen.
Drafted a couple of offensive linemen. We signed a fullback, so we're just putting blockers all over the place. We're bringing in Mike McDaniel, and now we're going to have guys who can protect him to keep him healthy, and he'll go out there and perform.
And over the course of his career, there's been criticism of the head coaches that he's had, and the idea that they were the limiting factor. Well, that's not a criticism anymore. Jim's taken a team to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
He's won a national championship in college football. So you take that out of the equation. So all the pieces are in place. We can agree. But if we're sitting here next year and talking about another, maybe missing the playoffs, or even worse, if they miss the playoffs completely, at what point does it become the talent just is not meeting the expectations?
Well, that's why this year shouldn't be the case, because you do have Mike McDaniel, right? And they've glorified how much they've kind of changed his game with getting the ball out faster, working on his footwork, timing and rhythm within the offense that's set now. So I think, to be honest, with everything we just said, we're running out of excuses for Justin Herbert. Like, seriously, like you got, like you just said, we got blockers. You got a new OC. You got a defense. Like, dog, we love it.
You got a head coach.
You got a head
in
coach.
the NFL and college.
We're running out of excuses to pick out for Justin Herbert, because nobody gets that type of runway in the league.
I agree, but like what you guys are talking about, like, he's got to do it. I look at him like I look at Josh Allen in terms of, like, the talent is there.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Josh Allen has more playoff wins and has played better in way more playoff games, so I'm not saying their playoff resume is comparable. But in terms of talent, it's like I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that Justin Herbert is good enough to get it done. So I look at it as more of an inevitability as opposed to like something that I would doubt.
And for years and years, I watched Matthew Stafford play and couldn't figure out why that organization didn't get over the top with as good as he was. And then he finally was able to get over the top when he moved and things fit together. And now we talk about him in a totally different light. But he was really, really good for a long, long time.
It's a great comp.
And they just, it's rare though, because typically elite franchise quarterbacks elevate everybody around them and change organizations. It's not, hey, he needs this, he needs this, he needs this. That's not how the conversation usually is.
Let's go to Baltimore and talk about another elite franchise quarterback, two-time MVP Lamar Jackson. Well, he just won 6 and 7, but it was limited action last year, 13 games, but he was playing through a lot of injuries. The Ravens got rid of Jim's brother John this offseason, brought in a new head coach and OC. So that means it's a new offense for Lamar, which it hasn't been for a while. All right, Coach. I think everything you said there makes total sense. There's obviously an adjustment with the new system, but how much pressure do you view Lamar specifically being under this year?
It's a huge amount of pressure. And it's a huge amount of pressure because organizationally and from an ownership perspective, they said that the limiting factor was Harbaugh.
Yep.
That they had to make a coaching change, and that's what was keeping them from realizing their potential of a guy who's won 2 MVPs and really could have won a third. So there's that component to it. Last year, there were multiple times where you could look at the interaction, you could look at the things that were being said and say, these two guys don't seem like they're on the same page or seeing things in the same way. And even when he was let go, when John was let go, you didn't hear a lot of praise
don't go, Coach.
and the things that you might typically hear from 2 people that have been together for a long time. So it seems like that relationship wasn't as solid as you'd hope it to be. So you've got that component of it. Now you're in a division where 3 out of the 4 teams have changed head coaches. That's a positive. You changed it, but 2 other teams have changed as well. The only continuity is in Cincinnati, so that's a real edge. So, yeah, they've made a decision. You have won. What are you going to do with this change?
Yeah, it's funny because I go back to week 1 against Buffalo last year and how we looked at that Ravens team and like, man, they look dangerous, right? And then at the end of that game, they kind of fumbled the bag and they unraveled due to injuries. And I'm saying, if it happens again, what now? You know what I mean? Like, there's a legit chance that Lamar can get dinged up. There's a legit chance that Derrick Henry may still go through his fumbling woes and Mark Henry's not dependable. They won't have Isaiah Likely. Zay Flowers will now be put in a slot. They still don't have a true number 1 in my eyes on the outside. So there's still holes within this offense, but it's like, how does this team recover from the what if? It can't solely collapse because all these other pieces fall apart, because I assume the roster's too good for everything kind of bottom out. And you're looking in a division right now that, Steelers will be better with Mike McCarthy. I'm just going to jump out there. I know I'm a homer, but I'm going to say it. I think the Bengals going to be damn good. So, like, if you're the Ravens, man, you have to be tougher and more inept to get over the hump and be more durable than what you showed over this past year.
I think the pressure on Lamar is also literally to carry the offense. Because Derrick Henry is in his mid-30s.
Yep.
Now, he's one of the most marvelous athletes of his generation, right? It's crazy, him and Adrian Peterson, like defying father time. But at some point, he's not going to be 1,500 yards and 300 carries, right? At some point, that's happening.
Yeah.
If it happens in the year where you lose Isaiah Likely and you lost Tyler Linderbaum, and I agree with you on Zay Flowers, nice player, but not a number one. He catches the ball and runs backwards. He's undersized. Yeah. He can't do everything that you want from a number one. You're counting a lot on a rookie on the offensive line. Like, first-time head coach. Lamar needs to be spectacular. Good thing he is. When he's in his prime, he can carry an offense like Josh Allen can carry an offense when everything isn't right around him. So I expect Lamar to be excellent this year.
Well, one of my biggest concerns is as they keep talking about the new offense. It's great. It's great that there's going to be new ideas brought into it, and he's going to be exposed to some new approaches. But he won the MVP twice. He almost won it a third time. You better do a whole lot of what he does well, and you better, whatever your offensive system is, it better start and end with what does Lamar want to do, what does Lamar do well, and regardless of how much you may like a play or you can incorporate all that stuff, but you better maximize him as opposed to saying, I'm going to impose my scheme on you.
I also think that there's such a high floor for an offense with Lamar Jackson, assuming he is healthy.
Yeah.
And I know I've said this a lot. I'll probably be a broken record on it as we approach prediction week in week one. I thought what Jesse Minter did with the Chargers' talent and all the injuries they had on defense over the couple of years, like, he just overachieved. And then all of a sudden, it's like he gets Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton and Matt Ibukwe and Wiggins and all of the talent on Baltimore's defense with a coach who has not had that level of talent but has overachieved with the talent he's had. I think Baltimore could be a top 5 defense in the NFL. So, if you give Lamar Jackson a top 5 defense in the NFL, even if he doesn't have a perfect offense around him, he should be able to win a lot of games.
Look what Robert Saleh did with the Niners last year. I mean, he had a duct tape defense. He had them boys playing at a high level. So I agree with you. He could get it to happen, but it's about buy-in too.
And also, Robert Saleh, when he was a head coach, the defense wasn't quite the same because you're torn in so many different directions.
Yeah, no, it's a first-time head coach, so another reason why there's pressure on Lamar Jackson. Back here on First Things First, talking a little Denver Broncos. They quietly went 14-3 last season, won the AFC West, came up one game short of the Super Bowl. I don't know how quiet it was. Sean Payton thinks, though, this is just the beginning. Sean Payton thinks they're well coached. Take a look at the odds to win the AFC West. Gotcha, Coach. Defending champs, they're third in their own division behind the Chiefs and the Chargers. This is a fascinating one to me. Willie, do you think people are sleeping on the Broncos?
I don't know if they're sleeping. Listen, they're being respected because they're a playoff team. I don't think they're being feared as a team that can win a Super Bowl. And that's the problem. I think when you win 14 games and you look at what happened last season, I'm going to be honest, they go into that AFC Championship game against the Pats, I thought they had the better roster. I don't even think it mattered if Bo Nix was playing or not. I assumed Broncos was going to win that game, especially being at home.
I thought it mattered.
Well, I just thought...
I thought if Bo Nix played, they would have won.
Well, part of my reason is because I felt like they were winning games because of that defense. It wasn't because of Bo Nix. So I assumed the defense was in par, that they were going to show up against the Pats and do work, and that didn't happen. So I was like, okay, Bo Nix has never been that guy for them. So not that he was bad. I don't want to just kind of, talk down on him. But I just felt like the defense was the spearhead like most of the playoff teams out there. With all that said, I think for the turning point for this team is they have to now win because of Bo Nix. That's going to make me a believer as a team that can win a Super Bowl. If it's because of him and his play and what he's able to do at the line of scrimmage and deliver, then I can say, yeah, this is a team that can seriously win a Super Bowl. Right now, I think the Chargers are in their way, right? I think the Chiefs are going to be hungry. I think the Raiders are going to be way more competitive. So as much as I do believe they can win games, it's about his game and him elevating his game under Sean Payton.
Yeah, and I think those odds that we see are really just purely quarterback odds. So when you look at that Kansas City first, right, so you're looking at Patrick Mahomes with the assumption that last year was an aberration, the team's going to be, Andy will be able to get things back in line, and they're going to be what they were for the previous 3 years, which were either in the Super Bowl winning it or in that mix. So that's the first assumption is Patrick Mahomes. We talked about Justin Herbert, we talked about the Chargers, and the idea that all those injuries last year, his hand, all the things that they went through as a team But the idea is Justin Herbert, with his talent level, he's the second best quarterback. Bo Nix is third, and then whether it's Kirk Cousins or Mendoza in Las Vegas, they're the fourth. And with Bo Nix, to his credit, he did a lot of really impressive things. And if we could just bring this graphic up, a few of these things I didn't even realize. The first one is 24 career wins in his first 2 years. That's tied for the most of any quarterback ever, which was Russell Wilson is who he's tied with. And then game-winning drives last year. There were 7 game-winning drives, which was the most in the NFL. You got to give him a lot of credit for that. And to me, that defines quarterbacks, is how can they play in those big moments. And then 12-3 in one-score games. Granted, the defense was a big part of that, but he was a big part of that as well. I'm not saying this is Drew Brees, but for 2 years as a young guy with a very demanding offensive head coach, he's done an outstanding job.
I think we are clearly sleeping on the Broncos, but I'm not ready to pick them over the Chiefs and the Chargers. Like, it's a great division. I think two things can be true here. Like, the Broncos are a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and I think that their roster is better than the Chiefs' roster, and the Chiefs are the favorite. But the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and you can be better 2 through 53, but if you're that much better at 1, I think it's totally reasonable to believe that 1 is going to carry you. And so the Broncos, it was a weird season because I remember them playing down to the Giants. I remember them playing down to the Raiders and needing like miracle fourth quarter wins against terrible teams. It's like, why aren't you playing better in this spot? You could look at that as, hey, they figured out how to win. I would say they had 11 one-score wins in the regular season, 8 of them against non-playoff teams. It's like that. You should be bludgeoning teams like that. But you return basically everything and added Jalen Waddle. Like, Troy looked this up for me. They returned all of their passing yards, all of their rushing yards, all but 21 of their receiving yards, and 58.5 of 68 sacks from last year. Now, Franklin Myers is a huge departure on the defensive line, but that's a really talented team with a great offensive line that returns basically everybody.
But how many times have we looked at good teams who play down to their competition and lose?
Well, I think they're banking on that. To DP's point, I think they're banking on that continuity, right? I think that chip on the shoulder that we love to highlight is the fact that they've been close enough at some point under Sean Payton and a Bo Nix who's clearly older and should be more savvy, that we look at this team and start taking them serious, along with the Houston Texans and the Buffalo Bills. Like, this is a team that can really be hoisting the Lombardi. And once again, I think it comes down to Bo Nix elevating his play like Patrick Mahomes has done and what Justin Herbert has to do if we want to say, they have a shot at it.
Jalen Waddle, underrated addition this offseason. Happened before the draft. You kind of forgotten about it. All of a sudden, Cortland Sutton and Jalen Waddle. It's a pretty good
Ingram.
It's a pretty good wide receiver duo. Let's go to Cincinnati. They have a better wide receiver duo. Joe Burrow, all systems go after missing half of last year with that turf toe injury. Now he's got a revamped defense and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on offense. So he thinks they have what it takes to make a deep run. All right, Willie, I'll start with you here.
Yeah.
We know the offense is good when healthy.
Obviously.
Right, there's a huge proof of concept of that. Do they have enough on defense to actually be a contender? Joe Burrow says all the pieces they need. Previously in the offseason, he said this is the most talented roster he's had since he's been there.
Yeah.
They got enough to contend?
No.
Okay.
They don't, and that's fair. I mean, is it an improvement from what we've seen? Of course, because the floor was so low. But nevertheless, up front, we forget the impact Trey Henderson had, right? Trey Hendricks, I'm saying that right?
Trey Hendrickson.
Thank you. This guy prior to last year, I mean, he was a guy who was a double-digit sack guy, right? And right now, what you look at, if we got the graphic, they got Jonathan Allen, they got Dexter Lawrence, they got Boyer Mafe. This is their career sacks. Now, Boyer Mafe had 9 sacks last season. He's not a 10, 12 sack guy, but they want him to be. The reason I highlight that is when you throw out Trey Henderson, he was a closer, like a Chris Jones and like some of these elite pals, like a Michael Parsons. When there's 5 minutes left in the game in the fourth quarter, you let these guys off the leash and they go hunt. They don't have that right now on the defensive line. So when you talk about an elite defense that has to complement an elite offense, you're going to need closers on the defensive side. I don't see it. So I think when Joe's talking, he's talking about his side of the ball, which is fair. But defensively, they got a very average linebacker core, and the secondary still needs work.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a graphic in a second. There's so much made about the trade and what a great trade that was. But the
Dexter Lawrence trade.
Yeah, the Dexter Lawrence trade. So you give up the 10th pick in the draft to get Dexter Lawrence. You let Trey Hendrickson walk for nothing. So now you take a great player and you let him leave.
In division, by the way.
In the division, and then you trade for a guy and give up the 10th pick in the draft. Look at the production side by side. So 109 games versus 117, 81 sacks versus 30.5, the tackles for loss, the forced fumbles. But to me, it's the business decision of he walks for nothing. You give up the 10th overall pick to go get a guy who's extremely talented, is going to be very good, and you pay him more money. I just don't know how that makes good business sense.
Probably doesn't make good business sense. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is younger. He obviously plays inside. Hendrickson plays more outside. Dexter Lawrence is one of the most double teamed defensive linemen in the NFL consistently over the last 5 years, so he attracts a lot of attention in that way. I think Dexter Lawrence is a great player. They did give up a ton to get him, though, to your point. Let me make the case for how the Bengals can be contenders. And yes, I skew towards offense, coach, and scoring points. But if you are elite on one side of the ball, you don't have to be elite on both sides of the ball, like historically. We were looking up, I asked Troy to say, all right, show me the teams that have won the Super Bowl with top 3 offenses. Because the Bengals can be a top 3 offense. So this is the last 20 years. Got their offensive rank and their defense rank. Obviously, last year's Seahawks team was spectacular because they were top 3 in both. You look at that 16 Patriots team, top 3 in both. But can this Bengals team be the 22 Chiefs, the 09 Saints, or the 06 Colts? A team that was a top 3 offense but was 16th in defense, 20th in defense, 23rd in defense. And I hear you on losing Trey Hendrickson, but what they did this offseason was they did invest on the defensive side of the ball. You showed the names, and I think you can make an argument that Hendrickson is better than those other guys, but they were 4th in the NFL in free agent spending on defense and traded for Dexter Lawrence. Like they added multiple bodies. They lost Trey Hendrickson, but Allen and Boye Mafe and Lawrence, like 3 guys instead of 1. It is an upgrade just in terms of the depth that they needed. So I guess my question is...
And they drafted a DN last year in the first round. They drafted a DN
when he just got hurt
in the second round.
But I guess my question is, can the Bengals be the 20th best defense in football?
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they're the 20th best defense in football. And you're now making the assumption that they're going to be the first ranked offense in football.
But they have to be. Like it's the inverse of what the Steelers were, right? Like the Steelers were such a huge disappointment last year because they spent the most money on the defensive side of the ball and they were merely a okay defense. If you spend like the Bengals have spent on offense, you have to be. There's no path to the Bengals being a contender without them being a top 5 offense. So yeah, absolutely, I am assuming that. Like the path to the Bengals contending is we are one of the best offenses in football and we are average to slightly below average on defense. Like that's their path.
Am I wrong in saying, didn't we kind of see that last year? I mean, defensively they were horrible.
They were horrible.
They were bad.
They were horrible, and they were hurt. So they were not always a top 3 offense, right? Like when Joe Burrow got hurt, it was game over. I look at it very similarly to Dallas. Like Dallas is basically saying, we're going to be the best offense in football, and maybe we will be the 20th best defense. And if we give up 24, 25 points per game, you'll win 12, 13 football games if you have the best offense in football.
And in fairness to Cincinnati, they have gone out and tried to address it in multiple ways defensively. For me personally, I can't, getting over that hump of letting a superstar go, getting another superstar in, but giving up the 10th pick in the draft who you could have for 5 years, like that part made me.
Well, I think part of
I think the process is totally fine, but like at the end, you can get to a destination, but there was turbulence along the way. It wasn't a smooth flight, but you got there.
Turbulence, or you fell off a cliff. Or
Fair enough.
Well, I think part of their mindset is if we can at least stop the run, that's half the battle, right? They couldn't do nothing on defense last season. So I think they addressed the run by getting Dexter Lawrence and Jonathan Allen. The secondary is not going to be good. Linebacker core is going to be average. So you at least have enough to become mediocre. The goal is, like with the offense, to your point, will the elite offense carry a mediocre defense? And let's say, hey, we're a different ball club. It could happen.
Yeah, and to me, like that's their path. There are some. The Rams have a more margin for error. The Seahawks clearly have more margin for error. Like teams like that are. I mean, the Ravens, in theory, have more margin for error.
Those numbers that you showed, that was yards. That wasn't scoring defense, right?
That was scoring defense.
Oh, that was scoring defense.
Scoring defense, yeah. And listen, there's a million. You could do it DVOA, you could do it yards, you could do it points. We did it with points.
Scoring.
But that's the path. You can't be excellent at everything. They're trying to be excellent on offense and be not terrible on defense. They're trying to just not be terrible.